You're listening to Hamilton at Noon with Robyn Foley. Hamilton's all-new talk station, Talk 820.
Well, there's a new machine that everyone is saying will change the face of publishing and retailing, and one of these machines is right here in Hamilton. You'll find it in Titles, the bookstore on the McMaster campus, and joining us now is the store's operations manager, Mark Lefebvre. Mark, before we take a look at this revolutionary machine, tell us something about actually how it works.
In a nutshell, this machine will print and bind a book in about 5 minutes using basically a standard PDF file, 2 files actually, a file for the interior book block, the black and white interior, and then a file for the cover, color cover. Now,
how many facilities have access to a machine like this? I understand it's a pretty unique piece of equipment.
Yes, this was Time Magazine's Invention of the Year. It's from On Demand Books in New York, and we're the 9th facility in the world to have this. And basically only the third bookstore in the world, or the third independent bookstore in the world, 2 in Canada and 1 in Vermont.
How did you get it and why?
Well, we needed to do something about a variety of things about our industry. I mean, one of them is the carbon footprint. We're shipping books back and forth all over the world. That's just the way the book industry works, where you bring it in, you put it on the shelf, and then if it doesn't sell, you return it to the publisher. So not only are we paying for that, and the publisher's paying for that, but the environment's paying for that. The other reason is we're always looking for ways to drive down the cost of course materials for students. We were innovators when it came to custom courseware. That's where a professor picks, a chapter from this book and a chapter from that book, rather than adopting 2 separate textbooks, and the student has to pay $200 for that. If they do the selective readings, we pay through access copyright to the publisher. So the publisher and the author still get the money that's owing to them, but the student doesn't have to pay as much. Similarly, we've been very aggressive with used textbooks to try and save students money. And this is yet another way where we can work with publishers to say, send us the PDF instead of shipping the book. That way we always have the book available for students. We're not out of stock if it's virtually in stock. And in one case for a book coming out in January, the price is going to be 30% cheaper doing it this way than the traditional way, which is good for students. And the small Canadian publisher, Playwrights Canada Press, is actually making the same amount of money so they can pay their authors.
So it's not an overstatement to say that this POD machine will change the face of publishing and retailing.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a very important invention, the book, which hasn't changed significantly in hundreds of years, and allow us to deliver this wonderful product in a new and fresh way.
Well, the good thing is that it isn't changing the book.
No, I mean, I'm a traditional book person. I love the look and the feel of a book in my hand. Sure, I own a Sony ebook reader, and I enjoy the convenience of taking 20 books with me when I go on a flight across the country. But I love nothing more than to hold a book in my hand and open it. So this allows us to merge a new technology with a traditional technology, which is the invention of the book.
I'm with you on the books. There's nothing better than looking at a library lined with volumes and volumes of great books, and that's something that no machine, I hopefully, will ever replace.
No, you can't just get that feeling in your heart without walking into a library or a bookstore and seeing those books on the shelves.
Now, let me understand how it works. I can't come into you and say, listen, I'd really like to get a copy of the latest Giller Prize book, Joseph Boyden's Through Black Spruce. Can you run me a copy of that for $10?
No, I can't, actually. What we will have access to, what we have access to now, is basically the public domain books, so books in which the author has been deceased for more than 75 years. So you're looking at the Charles Dickens of the world, the classics, and there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those available. So we have access to be able to produce those at a really good price for people. When it comes to newer books, we are going to be the first location in the world to have access to lightning sources, close to 1 million, or actually I think it's over 1 million books available, which will be new books that are available through POD technology, in which right now you could, for example, order through Ingram Publishing, and they're a worldwide wholesaler. So what we're going to be able to do soon is we have a fantastic special order business here. We carry about 40,000 trade books, but we still do a great business because of the eclectic community that we serve, local Hamilton and McMaster community. And we would look it up and say, okay, it's in stock at the publisher. We can order it for you. It'll take 2 weeks or whatever. If it happens to be available as a print-on-demand title, and I know some of the backlist titles from Oxford University Press and HarperCollins, for example, they're moving more towards doing their older titles on POD rather than just reprinting them. We may be able to say, well, we can order it for you. It'll take a couple weeks. But if you want to just go upstairs and grab a coffee, we'll have the book ready for you in, half an hour.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Now, even if it is these titles that you do have access to, isn't the publisher in some ways still losing money?
No, not if we do this correctly. If we do this correctly, and this is what we did with Playwrights Canada Press. So we have a professor who wanted to use a book. It's Reading Hebron, a play by Jason Sherman. So he contacted our textbook buyer and said, I'd like to do this book for January. And the text buyer contacted the publisher, and they said, well, it's no longer in print. We only have 2 copies in our warehouse. So he said, well, if you send us the PDF, we'll pay you whatever royalties you would like for this book, and we'll sign a contract, basically agreeing that we will make sure you get paid properly for this book, and we'll print it here just for our students. So what we did is we signed a contract with Playwrights Canada Press that we agree that we will print so many up to so many copies. We have their permission, and for every copy that we print and sell, we will remit a royalty to them, which allows the publisher to get paid for the fine work that they did producing this book, make sure that the author gets paid for the fine work writing this book, and at the end of the day, because my cost to print this book plus the royalties is still cheaper than it would have been to buy this book from a traditional publisher, in the traditional method, I can actually cut the cost of the book by 30% because it's a textbook, and the students don't have to pay as much. So the student wins, the author wins, the publisher wins, and of course the bookstore wins too. So I mean, this in my mind is one of the ways that we can work with publishers to help the end consumer.
This is really exciting, and especially, as you say, for students, because anybody who's had to buy a university textbook knows they are incredibly expensive.
Yes, and we've been working with the McMaster Student Union and a group of students. We collectively get together at the Canadian Roundtable on Academic Material. They're known as CRAM. And basically we've been trying to work with student groups and publishers on that issue, which is the broken textbook industry, where the prices just keep going up. It's sometimes 3 times the cost of inflation. And all of this cost gets put on the back of the people who can afford it the least, which is the students. So we're very passionate about doing what we can to work with the students to come up with solutions that are good for the students, but are also good for the creative community, because the last thing we want to do is take money away from publishers and authors who do provide that enrichment to our culture.
What's the first title you're hoping to reprint?
Well, we're hoping to do Margaret Houghton, who's actually a local author who's going to be in the store here on Saturday signing copies of her latest book. First here is also the archivist at the Hamilton Public Library, and she's going to be giving us access to an 1853 city directory of Hamilton. And so it's a replica version. We're going to use the Curtis scanner at the Mills Memorial Library here at McMaster, and create a PDF file of it, and then create a replica version that people can come in and check out. It's quite fascinating to look at this book from 1853 and the ads that are printed inside the book in the city directory. So if your family's from Hamilton, for example, you can look back and say, well, wow, this is where my great uncle lived back in 1853. Now,
is anyone welcome to come on Saturday?
Definitely. This is part of the Canadian Booksellers Association Independence Day. It's November 15th. It's independent bookstores across the country celebrating their independence and the shop local idea of come in and support your local bookstore. And what the bookstores are doing is trying to get as many local authors as they can into the store. We actually have 5 local authors coming in, so a variety of texts from Margaret Houghton's historical look at Hamilton, a picture book on the Dundas Valley, and 3 other books that are fiction books, one of which is from a McMaster alumna.
All right. Well, Titles is always a great place to be at any time, but now with this machine and what's happening on Saturday, definitely people should go.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you very much for joining us, Mark. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for your call, Robyn. Take care.
Mark Lefebvre of Titles Bookstore at McMaster, and I think a great way on Saturday to spend the day, go over, look at the local authors, see this machine. Sounds like a lot of fun.